Hey everyone, it's Erica. So if you follow me on Instagram already, you already know that I love sharing stories. I love writing detailed long form blog posts, and I just love sharing my story of my transition with everyone because basically other people sharing their stories on Reddit, Instagram, you name it, YouTube are how I personally learned more about the trans experience, about the various different trans narratives, and about all the different kinds of trans people that are out there. And um, it helped me come to terms with myself. It helped me identify with others, and it helped me just find my own place within the community, even after I decided to transition. So, with all that being said, there are just some stories that I think are just a little bit too long to write out, or it wouldn't do it justice writing out, or I haven't found the time to write them out yet. So that's why I'm going to be launching this YouTube page. That being said, I'm an accountant full time. I'm not a video editor. I don't have like a ton of free time. So I hope to be pretty regular with these, but it may be like a little spotty between videos. But I'll post them when I can, and I'm very much interested in hearing ideas for any stories or topics or things that you want to know more about me, down below. So after this video is over, you can like, subscribe, and you'll stay up to date with all my new videos. This common question, which I imagine is one that a lot of trans people who have already transitioned get, is how did you know that you were transgender? What was like the aha moment? What made you, realize that you were trans, end up transitioning? The answer is different for every trans person out there. And if you are someone who's asking that question, like, how do I know? There's no easy way to go about it. Just in short, it requires a lot of deep, deep self reflection. It requires a lot of self care. It requires taking things slow, seeing what makes you happy, what makes you sad. And, if those particular things are aligned with one gender or another, either the one you're born with, the one you identify with, or somewhere in the middle, you can kind of help narrow down, and be more and more sure over time. For me, since I was a small child, I would wish I could be a girl, but I didn't know that it was possible for me to be a girl in my head, but be a boy in body. Um, so I would always just wish to be a girl, and then when those wishes never came true, I would just wish to, I would wish to just stop feeling that way, And then when those wishes never came true, I just eventually just kind of like tried to distract myself until eventually I just realized like I was in the best relationship of my life. I owned my home, I owned a car, I had a good job, I had good friends, I had a good life, like everything you would think would be perfect, yet I was still unhappy, and I was getting more and more unhappy as the days went by, and I was like starting to feel depression, which I had never really felt before. I started actually feeling more direct, like the feelings of dysphoria, which a lot of people talk about. Deep in my head, I guess I should say I felt like I knew what, the reasons were. Um, but I was always just too afraid to face those fears, to face the reasons why I might be upset. So I think it wasn't until my previous relationship, they were 2 years and 3 months older than me. So when our relationship had gone on for 2 years and 3 months, I essentially was the age that they were when we started dating. When I looked at that span of time and I said, oh wow, 2 years and 3 months flew by just like that. And in another 2 years and 3 months, I will be turning 30. And I just, all these thoughts kept coming up in my head, like, where do I want to be when I'm 30? Who do I want to be when I'm 30? And I was at this point in my life where I could very easily see this period of time that had passed and think about who I wanted to be when another 2 years and 3 months went by, when I was turning 30. And I wasn't the person that I was. At that point, I started like, dysphoria it comes and goes in waves for those that are in the closet. I'm sure you identify with it just like I did. But it always like when it would come in waves, it would go down. Like, I wouldn't always feel consistently this level of dysphoria. But this one, it was like the worst of the worst. I just couldn't stop thinking about it. I was slipping into depression. I was becoming a person who I didn't feel like was myself anymore, and I wasn't really just the person that those who loved me knew me for. So I started just, I Googled transgender therapists Philadelphia. I eventually started seeing a therapist. I was open with my partner at the time, saying I was going to go to therapy for figuring out issues with my gender identity. I think a couple months before that, I had came out to them as, that I was a crossdresser. When I finally found a therapist, that was good for me. And that's the thing, you have to find someone who's going to listen to you and, challenge you, but not force you one way or the other, just help you figure it out for yourself. So when I eventually found this person, like it was frustrating for me because like my partner wanted me to have an answer. I obviously wanted an answer. If I wasn't going to transition, I just wanted to like be happy in my life. And if I was to transition, I wanted to start as soon as possible. My partner was very respectful and considerate of my space, and time that I needed to figure this out. I was as open, with them as I could have been in the time, given what I knew about myself and the situation. And, I think after 3 months of seeing a therapist, I was finally able to process more of how I felt. I was able to say, like, I am transgender for the first time in June of 2017, like 3 months after seeing a therapist. I wanted so desperately for there to just be like a test that I could take that would tell me if I was trans or not. So the pressure of making such a decision wasn't on me, but that's not the reality of it. And quite honestly, if it was that easy, I don't know if it would feel so satisfying getting there. Now, don't get me wrong, being trans obviously is a very hard journey. It's very upsetting at times. It's very euphoric at times, but I think I can value where I am so much more because I got there on my own and I was able to just like take a step back, evaluate my life, and just really figure out what I needed to do that would make me happy. So, that's basically, I guess that's not the only thing I did was seeing a therapist. Some other things that I did was I started practicing yoga. And it was actually one of the first Yoga with Adriene, like 30 Days of Yoga series. I think her first one was in 2015, if I'm not mistaken. So that that program started off, I think, on day one, saying like, find the purpose, like what it state and state it, like say it out loud. It's a like a home self practice. So I was alone, but she wanted you to audibly state what the purpose of doing this yoga practice was. Why are you sitting down on the mat every day for 30 days? And for me, I had a very specific purpose, which kind of just came to me in the moment. It's not like I sat down and knew she was going to ask that, but I sat down and I was just like, I want to find out what my inner sense of self is, whatever that is, whoever that may be. And I just, like every morning when I sat down and I did yoga, I made that little square, that rectangle of space in my living room, my zone to just be who I was without judging myself, without others judging me. I could just kind of let that flow freely, basically. And, I think that helped the whole process in doing that. And also in running, I was shedding a lot of weight. I was getting more tone. I was feeling better about myself. At that time in my life, I was on Reddit very, very, very often. So often it was insane. I was on the subreddits Ask Transgender and MTF for the most part, also trans timelines. As I was getting more and more comfortable with being trans, I was just like, looking at these other people who had transitioned. I would try and find people who like looked like me before I transitioned, and I looked at how they looked after, and I knew I wouldn't look exactly like them, but that was very reassuring to like, pick out people who looked kind of like me and, see how they look now and, how they were going to look, how I might look in the future. And that really helped me. And like being mindful of those, like that's one of the most important words I think that you can take away from like this self-identification and this journey is just mindfulness. Not just going through the motions, not just seeing a therapist, not just doing yoga, not just whatever, meditation, being mindful about all of those things and really paying attention to like what it is that makes you happy, what it is that makes you sad. So like when I started looking at these people who had transitioned and wanting to be like them, like that's a pretty big clue that like, this is something that if I were to do it, it could make me happy as well. As scary as it was, as terrifying as it was, like I think the more I thought about it, the less scary it became, which is only true up to a certain point. Like you could process, you know, a lot of different aspects of this transition. You can be ready to start hormones, you can work on your voice, you can like lose weight, you can practice makeup, all these other things. But to like step out there and live life as a woman for me, or you know, if you're a trans man, to step out there and to think about living life as a man, it's very intimidating and you can't really like ever understand that until you just do it. And every day is less scary and less scary than the one before, I feel. You know, I can honestly talk forever about all the little things to be mindful of, but the thing is, this is your journey, and you know, you just need to like look at what it is that you know you're looking for out of your life and out of this transition, and how this transition can help better your life. And doing all of those little things and being mindful of them, I think, is a great first step. Another one is a therapist, and you know, I think to sum it all up, the big aha moment for me was just in a way kind of like getting that taste of looking into the future, where my partner was about to turn 30 and thinking about like, wow, 2 years and 3 months flew by just like that. In 2 years and 3 months, who do I want to be? And like, you know, the crazy part is, since I had those first thoughts, it's been 2 years and 3 months, and I turned 30 later this year, and like, you know, I can look at myself, you know, like through this webcam, like video, I can look at myself in the mirror in my bathroom, like I can look at myself physically, but even just like looking into myself, like into my soul, I can like just feel so proud of like what I've done. And like that's just honestly what I want for all of you out there who are struggling with your identity. Like, you know, listening to stories like these, to stories of others on Instagram or Reddit, and you know, you don't even need a face to the name. Like a lot of the text stories on Reddit, like I identified with, and I like, you know, it's just crazy to like listen to those who put themselves out there and use that as a tool to help identify with yourself. So that's what I would recommend to you, is just be honest with yourself, explore, take things slow, and you know, I really hope the best for you guys. So I really hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you enjoy my page. Thank you. Bye.